Today on Real Estate Now, we have Chris Tiller, and we're going to be talking about the true cost of buying a home. So, Chris, talk to me.
Well, we're going to do conversation style. So, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you anticipate being some of the costs? I mean, there's pretty obvious ones.
Yeah. So you got the list price, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at a home on Zillow, you look, okay, this home is listed at $200,000, but what does it actually cost?
Yeah. So what are you thinking? What do you think encompasses that? So you go into a title to close on your house and sign paperwork. What do you think it's going to cost you? And then after that, where do you think you're going to have some expenses?
Probably on some things that were unforeseen. Like when I bought one of my houses, we didn't realize that there was termite damage prior, right? So we actually did a home inspection, but until I was moving furniture and it crushed against the baseboards, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Where was this at? In Arizona?
In Mesa, yeah. It's
Oh, wow.
Not too far from
Did
here.
your inspector, you guys weren't required to get a termite?
I don't think we were required to do termite, but anyways.
It's interesting. How much was the remediation? Do you remember?
Well, I did it myself.
Oh, okay. So fairly inexpensive.
I dug a trench around.
Yeah.
You dig a
you
trench
can
around
YouTube
your
a lot of that.
foundation. Termidor was the treatment that I used. But anyways, that's unforeseen cost.
That's
usually tell people that buy homes to set a certain amount aside for unforeseen things.
Yeah, so normally what I do is educate them based on the results of the inspection report. So depending on the condition of the house during the inspection will kind of dictate what I would anticipate future costs to be. So right now, and especially in the Southeast Valley, you're dealing with this pretty wide gap of homes kind of built between like late 90s and early 2000s. And then you kind of went dark through the crash. So after that, we didn't have a whole lot of building and construction going on, and then it picked up again 2012, 2013, 6-7 years or however long, but there's gaps in and over. But the point being that there was a kind of a dark period. Those homes built from like the late 90s, early 2000s, you're starting to see those are going to need new roofs and new ACs if they haven't already. So anticipating those costs over time is definitely one that you would educate your buyers on. Obviously, plumbing issues. Sometimes you'll see we have harder water, obviously, as you farther go to the east. So Queen Creek has some pretty hard water. You'll see valving will start to get calcium corrosion on it. So valving can be an issue. You might have to get a plumber to come in and fix like under sink valves. Some of the stuff you don't see a lot of times are like behind washer and dryer, well, the washer specifically, but the calcification behind there, replacing those valves, actually have to remove some drywall to replace the piping. So there's just ongoing maintenance that a lot of people don't see that you can kind of catch during the inspection. The hard part is if it's working appropriately as deemed by the inspector. So if your washing machine is turning on and operating, that's not really a fix, so to speak. I mean, you can ask people to do it, but if it's operating in its intended condition, as far as turning on and off, it's very difficult to try to convince sellers that there's a problem. It's just really maintenance that you're going to have to incur later on. Newer construction, obviously, you have a much less ongoing cost. Some of the hidden items that we see kind of more often on the newer construction homes would be like windows, the spring loading on the windows, depending on the quality that were installed. So just little things like being able to open and close your windows. They have these springs that hold it open. So as you lift it, it holds, and then you can close it. Well, when those wear out, it just opens and then falls right back down, obviously because gravity's going to push it. So again, it just depends on the inspection report on some unintended consequences.
I was going to say, do you typically instruct buyers to kind of go into buying a home and have a certain amount set aside, or it'll just be super thorough in your inspections? It's probably not typical that you're going to go in there and find a bunch of stuff, because usually the inspection report, they're looking through everything, and most of that stuff you're going to get fixed, prior to buying.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of that stuff we negotiate up front, but some of it depends on how far are they stretching to go after this house. I mean, if they're adamant that they, if they're, let's say, a VA loan with no money down situation, then the conversation kind of revolves around, hey, what kind of a pad do you have here to kind of front you through the process? So we talked about inspections and the repairs, and that's kind of ongoing maintenance. So it's not something you're going to necessarily incur immediately upon move-in. It's just a preparation that you might have to start a savings account for, say $50 a month, $100 a month into an account, so that you know when these anticipated costs are going to happen, that you have a pad there, so you're not just essentially putting something on a credit card and then trying to pay it later with interest. So the idea is just kind of pay yourself first so that you can incur those over time. But the upfront cost that I think you're probably more leaning towards is, for instance, moving expenses. People severely underestimate how much it's going to cost to move. And that encompasses a bunch of different things. Obviously the moving truck, but little things like if you're moving cities, even just like Gilbert to Chandler, and you have to reestablish utilities, if you're using a different utility company, you may have to have a $250 deposit just for utilities on the electric side, and maybe there's water, and depending on the situation, your credit score could dictate some expenses that you hadn't quite foreseen. Another one is when you get in and you realize that you don't like the ceiling fans, or it doesn't have a ceiling fan, or the light bulbs are burnt out. I mean, there's a lot of things that kind of add up over time.
Sure.
Window treatments are a big one. Ceiling fans are a big one. Obviously, appliances kind of get at forethought. Little things like a hose for the backyard to water your landscaping or trees or whatever that doesn't have a drip system, or maybe dead spots in the grass. So there's just all these weird little stuff that kind of add up very quickly. You realize before you go to Home Depot that you're at $1,000 before you even know it, that you maybe hadn't even thought of as you walk through the house, because when you did, it was furnished, they had all the window furnishings, everything was already there and in place, and then it gets emptied out, and now you're looking at scrapes on walls. You have to go get touch-up paint, nicks and scratches all over the place. So it just adds up. So I don't go in with like a dollar figure that I explain to them that they need to have set aside. Every house and every client is different and specific. So it kind of dictates the conversation based on their situation. But the unintended consequences, unintended cost of moving outside of just the down payment, the closing costs and all that add up over time. Yeah, it's a educational piece that can't be overlooked. Yeah.
So in regards to, if you're searching for a home on Zillow, you see what the price is after paying title fees and
your closing,
your down
costs
payment. So down payment is pretty fixed, right? Either you're paying 3% or whatever that percentage, what you're going into, based on, usually prior, right?
Yeah, you've kind of decided
pre-qualification. You've kind of figured out what loan program you're going to qualify for. So, but obviously the commission side of things, the buyer's not going to be handling any of that. So,
but yeah, the closing costs, that's a conversation you're going to have with the lender depending on the loan program that you have, and then they'll be able to walk you through that. And then obviously title fees that come with it. So you're going to have to pad your escrow account. So a lot of buyers don't understand that the mortgage company is actually going to pay your taxes and insurance for you. They're going to create an impound account, which is a savings account that the bank is going to operate for you. So part of your monthly payment, which most people know, is part of that principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. They're going to pull all of that and then make the payment depending on how it's allocated. So taxes are twice a year. Some, insurance could be once a year, quarterly, however your insurance does it, but they're going to pay it for you. Well, up front, typically the bank's going to grab that from you so that they have that over time just to pad that checking account. No difference than when you open a checking account, you usually have to put some money into it to get it started. Same thing, they're just asking for you to pay up front, but it's a cost. That's part of your closing costs, so to speak. And that's why sometimes it's possible to get sellers to pay for that, so you can actually negotiate for them to pay a portion of that to limit your out-of-pocket in addition to your down payment. So down payment, seller's not going to pay for you. A lot of times mortgage companies, they don't even allow it. So the closing costs can be negotiated, but that's a pretty high expense. I mean, it can be $5,000 to $8,000 depending on what loan program you're getting. So it's a cost worth having a conversation about.
All right, so for more information, or if you have any specific questions about costs that you may potentially, or depending on the age of the home, or any recommendations, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. We'll definitely be monitoring those and help you out where we can. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.